Hey, tonight we're diving into the brutal, blistering world of the French Foreign Legionnaires, the romanticized version from the movies, with brave soldiers marching nobly through the desert, but the raw, bone-grinding reality where survival was a daily gamble. You might think you're tough enough to make it, but trust me, most wouldn't last a single day. If you're enjoying these stories, I'd really appreciate a quick like or even a subscribe. It helps more than you know and keeps these history dives coming. I'm always curious where you all are listening from, so drop a comment with your location and what time it is there. Love seeing our little global community connect through these stories. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. We're going to explore why you might not even make it past sunrise in the French Foreign Legion. Congratulations, maybe condolences. You've just woken up in a sand-choked barracks somewhere on the edge of the Sahara Desert, and you're now officially a legionnaire. The air is dry enough to parch your throat just from breathing, and the heat hasn't even kicked in yet. The wooden bunk beneath you creaks as you sit up, your muscles already sore from yesterday's drills. You were up before dawn, running drills in boots that barely fit, wearing a uniform that smells like a decade's worth of sweat, because it probably is. You got about 4 hours of sleep, if you're lucky. There are no bed sheets, no pillows, just a burlap blanket and a stained mattress crawling with dust, and possibly things better left unidentified. You hear the bark of an officer before you're even on your feet. Debout! Debout! That means get up. Now. No excuses. You scramble to your feet, heart pounding. There's no time to stretch, no moment to gather your thoughts. This isn't basic training in a first world army. This is the Legion. You're thrown into the fire from the first second. Breakfast is watery soup and a chunk of dry bread so hard it could break a tooth. If you're lucky, there's coffee strong, bitter and scalding, but don't take too long sipping it. You've got 10 minutes to eat, get dressed, and be outside for roll call. Miss it, and you'll be running laps until you puke. Or worse, doing le crapaud, a kind of squat jump that destroys your legs and leaves your lungs burning. The French Foreign Legion didn't care who you were before you joined. You could be a former banker, a failed actor, a farm boy, or someone on the run from something. The Legion wipes your past away. You're not even called by your real name anymore, just a number, a face among faces. Everyone starts at zero. No rank, no favors. Just obedience, sweat, and sand. And speaking of sand, it gets everywhere. In your boots, in your food, in your mouth, in your eyes. You're in North Africa now, and the sun doesn't rise gently. It crashes down like a hammer, turning the desert into an open oven by mid-morning. Your uniform soaks through with sweat by 9 a.m., but you're still marching, drilling, digging, running. The Legion doesn't stop for the weather. There are days you wonder if this is training or punishment. The discipline is absolute. One wrong word to a superior, and you're peeling potatoes for a week or cleaning latrines in 120-degree heat. Refuse an order, and you're spending time in La Prison, a small, dark box where you sit alone, in silence, sweating and shivering. Depending on the time of day, it's not a place they talk about much, but everyone knows about it. You march for hours, your rifles slamming against your back, your feet blistered and bleeding. But no one complains. Complaining is a luxury you unlearn quickly. You'd be amazed how quiet a dozen men can get when the cost of opening your mouth is another 10 miles of running. You think this is the worst of it? Not even close. You haven't met the scorpions that crawl into your boots at night, or the centipedes that dart across your bedroll. You haven't had to hold your rifle above your head for an hour straight because someone in your unit forgot to salute. You haven't buried a fellow legionnaire who dropped dead from heat stroke. And you haven't yet faced the part every legionnaire dreads, a deployment into the desert where you're told nothing, and everything depends on your ability to survive with minimal food, water, and sleep. Welcome to day one. You're already behind. You're out on patrol now, and the sun is merciless. Your squad is marching in single file across a landscape so barren it looks like another planet rock. Sand, more rock, more sand. The heat rises in shimmering waves, and your canteen is already half empty, even though you're supposed to make it last the whole day. Every step you take grinds the blister on your heel deeper into raw flesh. The strap of your rifle rubs against your neck, creating a burn that will only get worse as the salt from your sweat seeps into it. You want to stop and rest, even for just a minute, but stopping isn't an option. The corporal in front of you sets the pace, and no one breaks formation. You pass the carcass of a dead mule, half buried in sand, its ribs exposed, its eyes long gone. No one mentions it. It's just part of the scenery out here. Eventually, you reach a crumbling outpost, more a pile of stone than a fortant. Begin digging new latrines. The sun is directly overhead now, baking your scalp beneath your cap. Your shirt clings to you like wet paper. The shovel you're holding feels like it weighs 50 pounds. You dig anyway, because if you don't, someone else will report you, and then you'll be the one doing punishment duty while everyone else rests. Legionnaires aren't your friends. Not really. Not yet. Maybe never. Trust is earned slowly here, one shovel full of dirt at a time. Lunchtime comes and goes without lunch. You were supposed to get rations, but the supply wagon didn't arrive. So you sit in the shade. What little there is skewing on a piece of leather from your glove, tricking your stomach into thinking you're eating. You drink 2 sips of water, count to 60, and force yourself to stop. The corporal says it might be another 5 hours before you get back to the barracks. When the wind picks up, it doesn't cool you, it stings. Sand whips across your face, sneaks under your collar, fills your ears. You pull a scarf over your mouth, but the grit still gets in. It scours your teeth, makes your eyes water. You start walking again, and walking, and walking. Your legs feel like they're moving on their own now. You don't think, you just put one foot in front of the other. When you finally get back to base, it's near dusk. You're soaked with sweat, dust-coated, exhausted. You want nothing more than to lie down, but first there's weapons cleaning. An officer inspects your rifle with eyes like razors. He finds a smudge on the barrel and gives you 20 push-ups in the gravel. You don't argue. You just drop and count them out in a strained voice. Dinner is a lukewarm mess of beans and rice. It tastes amazing because it's food. And food means life. You eat every bite, scraping the bowl clean. Some of the older legionnaires are laughing, playing cards, smoking. You don't know what language they're speaking. There are men here from all over the world. Germans, Russians, Poles, Brazilians, Algerians, Koreans. You hear 6 languages in 5 minutes and understand none of them. You try to speak French, but your accent gives you away. They call you Blue, a rookie. The name sticks until you've proven yourself. You don't speak again for the rest of the night. Sleep is a mercy, but even that's unreliable. You drift off for an hour, maybe 2, before you're shaken awake by a sudden shout. Someone got into a fight. Again, you sit up, eyes wide, as 2 men are dragged out into the yard. Fists fly, boots hit flesh, and you stay on your bunk, staring at the ceiling, pretending to be asleep. You don't want any part of it. You don't want anyone to even know your name. When it's over, and the injured are limping back to their bunks, you lie down again. The barracks are quiet except for snoring, coughing, and the soft creak of the ceiling fan. You close your eyes, but sleep won't come. You think of home wherever that was. You think of real food, soft pillows, warm showers. You think of a place where you weren't just a number in the middle of nowhere. Then you stop thinking, because thinking makes it worse. You've made it through day 1. Barely. Only 629 more to go in your 5-year contract. Morning hits hard. There's no gentle sunrise, no alarm clock with calming tones, just the bark of your sergeant's voice slicing through your fragile sleep like a bayonet. You wake up drenched in your own sweat, mouth dry as bone, muscles sore from head to toe. Your uniform from yesterday is still damp, and your boots haven't dried. There's no time to air anything out. You throw it all back on, grit and all, and stumble into formation outside. The sun hasn't even risen, but the heat is already clinging to your skin. Morning roll call is rigid and silent. You stand at attention as names are number called off. 1 man is missing. No one says anything. You assume he deserted in the night. It's rare, but not impossible. And when it happens, no one asks questions. You'll hear later if they find him, but most who run into the desert don't come back. Today's assignment: route march. 15 miles with full gear under a scorching sky. You carry your rifle, canteen, pack, extra rounds, and enough sand in your boots to start your own beach. Your feet are already blistered from yesterday, and with every step, those blisters rub, tear, and reform. It's like marching on fire. But the alternative being pulled from the line is worse. You fall behind, and someone reports you. If you collapse, you're not helped up. You're screamed at, maybe even left behind. The Legion doesn't babysit. The pace is brutal. You pass villagers in the distance who stare without expression. Children watch with curiosity. An old man spits in the dirt. You're not welcome here, not really. The Foreign Legion is a tool of empire, and everyone knows it. You're not peacekeepers, you're enforcers. And the land you're marching through remembers every uniformed man who came before you. When the sun reaches its zenith, the world becomes a blur. Heat waves shimmer across the sand, your mouth turns to cotton, and your thoughts dissolve into static. There's a point when pain turns into numbness. Your body keeps moving, even though your mind checked out 2 hours ago. You hallucinate that you're walking into the ocean, but it's just the haze. Finally, at the end of the march, you arrive at an isolated post-bare-bones outcrop of stone walls and creaking gates. There's little shade and less water. Your orders? Fortify the walls, rotate watch shifts, dig fresh trenches. There's always digging. Your hands are cracked and bleeding from the shovel. You wrap them in rags and keep going. Lunch today is the same warm stew as yesterday, more broth than bites, but still hot, and you eat it quietly. You sit in the corner, keeping to yourself not because you're shy, but because looking people in the eye too long feels a little awkward. Things are quiet here, and everyone likes their space. Some folks are here for new beginnings. Others are here for adventure. Nobody really talks about their past, and that's okay. What you do know is everyone here is learning something about teamwork, about patience, about starting fresh. Some are trying to grow, others just want to travel far. The French Foreign Legion gives them that chance. A new chapter, but it takes a lot of effort. During your shift watching the hills, you perch on a rocky spot with your gear, looking out across the golden sand for anything that looks out of place. You're told to notice shapes that don't belong. Your eyes get a little tired from looking so long. You start imagining shapes in the distance, maybe shadows, maybe clouds playing tricks. There's likely nothing there, but once in a while a breeze stirs something and you sit up straighter, just in case. Then it's still again, just the wind moving across the sand. When the sun sets, it gets chilly, way colder than you'd think after such a warm day. You pull your blanket up to your chin and curl up to stay warm. The stars shine so brightly above it, feels like you could touch them. You wonder if someone far away is looking at the same sky. Then you remember that being out here, part of this team, is your life now. You traded the old for something new. Your sleep gets interrupted sometimes by the wind howling through the tents or someone checking in from the watchtower. At one point, a little desert critter scuttles across the floor. A boot gently nudges it away. No one even blinks. It's just another part of life in this place. You made it through the day, even if it didn't feel like much happened. Tomorrow will probably be similar walking, practicing, listening, following directions. And this is only the first week. Another day means another chance to learn. The morning bell rings before the sun is up again, and your legs are more sore than yesterday. You can't really tell if your shoulders are aching or just stiff. You get up anyway. It's automatic now stand. Dress, check your water bottle, lace your boots, and head outside for the day's instructions. A light wind overnight left a dusty layer on everything. Your bunk, your socks, even your toothbrush has a little grit. You cough once and shake off the dust. Today's schedule sounds a little unclear, which usually means lots of walking. The captain reads the list in French. Look around. Stay alert. Pay attention. That last part gets everyone focused. You're still new and don't know what keep your eyes open might mean exactly. But the older folks nod and check their gear again. Everyone makes sure they have what they need. You're heading into a quiet area, but one that's unfamiliar. Nobody calls it dangerous. It's just part of the job being where others usually aren't. You all march in careful lines, moving through hills and stony paths. It's the kind of place where everything feels still. No birds, no breeze, just quiet. You glance at the person ahead of you, copying the way he walks and holds his things. He's been out here before, probably a lot. You haven't. You spot something ahead, a tiny flicker, like a leaf moving. Your heart jumps. Everyone grips their packs just a bit tighter. You hold your breath, then nothing. Just the wind again. It might have been sunlight or just a shadow. You keep walking. No one says anything. It's not worry, it's focus. Later, back at the camp, they say it was a simple patrol. Nothing unusual, but someone might have been watching. No one explains who. That part's not important. What matters is you did your part. You clean your gear, eat your stew and bread, and try not to fall asleep sitting up. Next is night watch duty. 4 hours standing guard, 4 hours of rest, all through the night. Sleep in fits, if at all. The barracks is noisy snoring, coughing, some soft muttering in different languages. You get used to that background hum, but you never fully sleep. You nap, dreamless. The guard tower is bitterly cold now, wind slicing through your jacket. You stand, eyes scanning, rifle ready. It's boring, which is good. You'd rather be bored than have something to shoot at. You shift from foot to stay awake. After your shift ends, you stumble to your bunk. It's only been a few days, but you're already losing track of time. The days blend. The routines blend. The punishments for the smallest mistakes are always fresh, though. You saw one man forget to salute an officer yesterday. The entire squad did push-ups until someone threw up. Collective punishment. It breeds discipline and resentment. You learn fast, or you pay. One afternoon, while repairing part of the outpost wall, a fight breaks out. 2 legionnaires zone French. 1 Eastern European go at each other like wild dogs. It's over a card game, or maybe a stolen cigarette, no one's sure. They're pulled apart, both bruised, both silent. Later, you hear they were both put on latrine duty for a week. Out here, a fight is treated like anything else, a crack in the system to be sealed, not examined. No one talks about it afterward. The wall they were fixing remains unfinished for now. Work continues the next morning like nothing happened. Days turn to a rhythm. March, drill, clean, dig, patrol, eat, guard, sleep. You learn to shut off the part of your brain that wants variation. Routine is safety. Routine means you're still alive. You've stopped counting days already. Some of the veterans have tally marks carved into their rifle stocks. 5 years is the contract. Few make it the full term without scars, physical or otherwise. One man finally finishes his service. You watch as he stands outside the gates, dressed in civilian clothes, waiting for transport. He doesn't look happy, he looks lost, like he's forgotten how to exist without orders. You wonder if that'll be you someday, or if you'll even last that long. The days keep stacking, each one a near copy of the last, like a grim carousel that never stops turning. You wake up, you suffer, you obey. The Legion doesn't care if you're tired. It doesn't care that your boots have worn thin or that the rifle has rubbed a raw patch into your shoulder. The machine keeps running, and you're a gear in it. Some nights you dream of escape, not desertion, but just leaving. Walking over a hill and finding a quiet little town, a soft bed, a warm meal. But you always wake up, back on the hard bunk, surrounded by snoring men and the stench of unwashed clothes. Reality is harsher than dreams out here. One morning, you're assigned to water run duty. It sounds easy, but it means hauling barrels up from a distant well using a rusted hand pump that takes 2 men to operate. The sun beats down. The flies circle. Every drop of sweat feels wasted. You spend the entire morning filling 2 barrels, only to be told they need more by the afternoon. There's never enough water. Not for bathing, not for washing clothes, not even for proper hydration. Your lips crack, your skin peels, but you get used to the sensation of thirst. Hunger, too. They feed you just enough to keep you functioning, not thriving, just functioning. One evening, a sandstorm rolls in without warning. 1 second you're tightening the camp perimeter. The next, you're blinded by gusts of wind so strong they nearly knock you over. Sand pelts your face like needles. You duck behind a wall, pulling your scarf tight, squinting through slits in your goggles. Orders are shouted, but the wind drowns them out. You can barely see your own hands. It lasts over an hour, and when it's gone, everything is coated rifles, beds, food supplies. You spend the next day cleaning, coughing up grit, ears still ringing. Sand finds its way into everything. Even your soul feels dry. In moments of silence, you look around and realize how isolated you are. The Legion isn't just physically remote heights emotionally barren. Most of your fellow soldiers don't talk unless necessary. When they do, it's short, clipped, almost transactional. Trust doesn't come easy here. Camaraderie exists, but it's quiet, unspoken. You might get a nod after a long patrol. Maybe someone tosses you an extra cigarette. That's affection in this place. There's one old veteran, nobody knows his real name, but they call him Pear, which means father. He's been in the Legion over a decade. Silent, sun-leathered, always sharpening something knife. Bayonet, shovel. One night, you sit beside him. He offers no greeting, just hands you a tin cup of awful, lukewarm coffee. You sip it. It tastes like burnt rubber, but you nod in thanks. That's enough. That's a friendship in the Legion. The longer you stay, the more you understand the code here. There are no questions, no complaints, no expectations of comfort. You do your job. You keep your head down. You survive. That's it. You stop dreaming of going home. That concept fades like the color of your uniform. Now it's about making it to the end of each week without being broken by the heat, by the drills, by the sheer mental grind of it all. And then the real test comes: deployment. You're loaded onto trucks with barely a warning, rattling down bone-shaking roads toward a distant village. There's been unrest. Your job is to secure and observe, whatever that means. When you arrive, the villagers watch you with blank expressions. You're not here to help. You're here to stand there, rifles slung, eyes scanning for signs of trouble. You do this for hours under the pitiless sun. No shade, no relief. Just tension and the knowledge that anything can shift in a second. A rock thrown, a gun raised, an explosion from nowhere. Nothing happens, not this time. But the air feels heavier when you leave. The squad is silent on the ride back. No one mentions the child who stared at you the whole time, clutching a stick shaped like a rifle. Back at base, you clean your weapon 3 times. Not because it's dirty, because your hands need something to do. Something other than shake. You're learning now. You're becoming Legion. Or maybe you're just becoming less of what you used to be. There's a moment, not long after that first deployment, when you catch your reflection in a broken mirror nailed to the barracks wall. You barely recognize the face staring back. Sunburned, hollow-eyed, jaw clenched from constant grinding. Dirt has settled into the lines of your skin like ink. You look older, much older. You've stopped counting the weeks. Time here flows strangely. You measure it in routines. The number of drills, the number of marches, the number of times you've dug the same trench that collapses after every storm. Every day bleeds into the next, until the only thing that marks change is a new blister or a fresh assignment. Today's task is brutal, hauling crates of ammunition up a rocky slope to a lookout post that hasn't seen use in years. The slope is steep, the sun directly overhead, and each crate weighs more than you want to admit. You grunt with each step, your boots slipping on loose stone, legs trembling under the weight. The older guys make it look easy. They don't talk, don't complain. They just do the job. That's the mantra out here. Don't think, just do. Your hands are so callous that you can barely feel them anymore. Your shirt is soaked through by the time you reach the top, but there's no break waiting for you. The corporal barks at you to start sandbagging the perimeter immediately. You dump your pack, pick up a shovel, and start filling bags. The dust gets into your mouth, your ears, your lungs. Breathing feels like swallowing glass. You keep going. As the sun dips behind the ridge, turning the sky a dusty orange, you're finally told to rest. You sit on a rock, watching the horizon. It's eerily beautiful out here, in a way. Desolate, silent, vast. The desert doesn't care about you, doesn't even acknowledge your existence. It just is. Some guys find peace in that. Others go a little mad. You've seen both. The night that follows is one of the colder ones. The temperature drops fast, and you don't have enough layers. You curl up under your blanket, shivering, listening to the wind whistle through gaps in the old stone post. Someone nearby is softly humming a song in a language you don't know. It's oddly comforting, just enough to dull the edge of the cold. In the morning, you get a letter, or rather a piece of a letter. Mail is rare and unpredictable, and when it comes, it's often late, ripped, or water-damaged. You open the faded envelope with shaking hands. It's from someone back home. The handwriting is familiar. They talk about normal things: the weather, work, a wedding you forgot was happening. Their words feel like they're from another planet. You fold it back up and tuck it into your pack. You don't reply. You don't know what to say anymore. What would you even write? That you're sunburned and exhausted? That the only conversations you have are shouted across a dusty field or whispered during patrol rotations? That you've become a different person? No. You keep it simple. You write nothing at all. The weeks drag on. The tasks don't change. March here. Dig there. Guard this. Patrol that. You train constantly. Shooting drills. Close quarters combat. Obstacle courses designed to break your spirit. The instructors are relentless, one of them nicknamed Le Diable by the many's infamous for his brutal sessions. He finds your weakness and exploits it, screaming in your face, pushing you until you collapse. You hate him, but oddly, part of you wants to impress him. Get through it. Show him you can take it, that you belong here. There's a strange pride that starts to bloom in your chest. Not happiness, not joy, just a quiet knowledge that you're still here. You haven't broken. Not yet. You've seen others fall. One guy had a breakdown during a midnight patrol, just dropped his rifle and sat in the dirt, whispering to himself. They sent him back to headquarters. You don't know what happened to him. You don't ask. The Legion is filled with ghostmen who come and go without explanation. You just hope you're not next. You go to sleep that night under a blanket stiff with dust and sweat. Your rifle by your side, boots still on. There's no ceremony here, no final word. You just close your eyes and hope that when the sun rises, you're still strong enough to face whatever's next. Weeks pass, then months. You don't feel them. They slide by like water over stones low, grinding, wearing down whatever you were before. You're not the same man who arrived at this outpost clutching his papers and staring wide-eyed at the desert. That version of you didn't know how to strip a rifle blindfolded, didn't sleep through explosions, didn't laugh when someone suggested mail might come today. You're harder now, leaner, quieter. You wake before the horn. Your boots are always tied. You eat quickly, not because you're hungry, but because you know what happens when you're last in line. Hunger is no longer something you feel, it's just background noise, like the hum of flies or the distant clatter of tools. One morning, a fresh group arrives. New recruits, blues. They look like you used token fused, pale, blinking too much. One of them asks you if the food ever gets better. You don't answer, not because you're rude, because you've learned it's kinder not to say anything. Let them figure it out. Let them harden like you did. Or not. Some of them won't make it past the first month. Some won't even make it past the first patrol. You're sent on one that same week. Another recon sweep, deeper into the Badlands. The terrain is jagged and treacherous, the rocks sharp enough to tear through your souls. Your squad is silent, heads low, weapons ready. You move like shadows. In the distance, a plume of smoke. Possible enemy camp, says the corporal. You split into pairs, creeping closer. Your heart pounds so loudly you're sure they'll hear it. But when you arrive, the camp is empty. Just ashes, smoldering fire pits, and a scattering of footprints in the sand. Someone was here, not long ago. The corporal orders everyone to spread out and search. You move cautiously, checking corners, scanning the ridgelines. Every instinct screams that you're being watched. Nothing happens. You regroup and return. But the silence hangs heavy. That night, you sit around a fire built from scrub brush and dry dung. The flames dance, casting flickering shadows on weary faces. Someone shares a bottle of something strong and terrible, and it burns your throat in the best way. A few men hum songs from home. One tells a joke, and for the first time in days, someone laughs. It's a hollow, dusty laugh, but it's real. You realize something then. This life, brutal and joyless as it is, has its own rhythm, its own twisted kind of peace. You're not happy, but you're functioning. You belong in a way. And that's enough. One of the older men, Sergeant Moreau, who everyone calls Iron Tooth because of the silver cap on his front tooth, tells a story about his first year. About the time he got lost in the dunes, wandered for 2 days without water, and survived by sucking moisture from cactus pulp. Everyone listens. No one questions the truth of it. In the Legion, if a man says he survived by eating lizards and drinking dew, you believe him, because you know you might do the same someday. The conversation drifts. Talk of fights, of old friends who've rotated out, of the next supply drop. You don't say much, just listen, taking it all in. This is how you learn. The next morning, it's back to routine. Morning drills, equipment check, wall repairs. A latrine has collapsed and needs digging again. Of course. You grab a shovel and get to work. Hours pass. Then news arrives. A man has deserted, took his gear and vanished in the night. The captain is furious. A search party is formed, but no one expects much. If the heat or the wild dogs don't get him, the locals might. Still, you march, scanning the horizon, hearts heavy. There's no reward for bringing him back. No ceremony if you find what's left. Just paperwork. Just more digging. You don't find him. You return in silence, exhausted. The man becomes another unspoken ghost, one of many. That night, during watch duty, you stare out over the sand dunes. The moon casts long, eerie shadows. In the distance, a single shape moves. You raise your rifle, heart in your throat, but it's just a fox, nosing through the waste. You exhale slowly, still here, still breathing. Another day survived. Another notch in your invisible tally. You lower your rifle, wipe the sweat from your brow, and return to your post. By now, your old life feels like a hallucination. Memories of soft beds, hot showers, regular meals. They come to you like flashes from a dream. You're no longer sure you lived. You don't even remember what your voice used to sound like when it wasn't cracked from shouting or parched from the sun. The Legion has stripped you down and rebuilt you from raw nerve and muscle. The idea of quitting is gone. Not because you've found purpose, but because you've been consumed by the rhythm. Wake, march, dig, watch, clean, repeat. It's not meaning, it's motion. And somehow, that's enough. You've stopped writing letters. The ones you sent at first went unanswered, or worse, returned. And now, with each passing week, the names and faces you once held close have started to fade. You don't mourn them. You don't feel much of anything anymore, except when it's time to move. Then, your body responds automatically. One afternoon, a routine patrol turns into something more. You're walking through a narrow gorge when the lead scout raises his fist. Everyone drops. Silence. You lie flat against the hot stone, rifle tight against your chest. You hear something, not words movement, footsteps on gravel. A shadow flits past the edge of the rocks ahead. The corporal gestures. You spread out, moving in pairs, low and fast. Adrenaline cuts through your exhaustion like a knife. You round a bend and find yourself staring at another man-ragged, sunburned, barefoot. It's the deserter. He looks like he hasn't slept in days. You freeze. He sees you. For a moment, no one breathes. Then he bolts. You don't hesitate. You chase. Your boots pound the stone, rifle jostling against your shoulder, lungs burning. But he's too fast, too desperate. He vanishes into the rocks, and you lose him. Again. When you return, the corporal doesn't yell. He just shakes his head. He won't last another night. And you know he's right. That kind of running only ends one way. The next few days are quiet. Too quiet. Everyone senses the storm brewing. One night, it finally hits. A real storm this time. Wind howls through the cracks in the walls, thunder shakes the ground, and actual rain pours from the sky in sheets. You rush to secure tents, equipment, ammo crates. Mud slides down the trenches you spent a week digging. Someone curses as a supply cart tips over. You work through the night, soaked, freezing, teeth chattering. And yet you're weirdly grateful. It's different. Anything different is a blessing. The next morning, the storm has passed and the world is changed. The air smells clean, the dust is gone. For a few short hours, everything is still, peaceful, until the captain calls a meeting, a new assignment, a relocation. You're moving east deeper into contested territory. Rumors swirl, rebel camps, smugglers, hostile terrain. You pack what little gear you have and load onto trucks again, bouncing over uneven roads. Days pass in transit, the scenery shifting from desert to scrubland to mountains. You arrive at a crumbling fortress, built 100 years ago by soldiers long forgotten. It's isolated, eerie, and already smells like mildew and oil. Welcome home, again. The first thing you do is dig. Always digging. Reinforcing walls, burying waste, building latrines. You spend hours swinging a pickaxe into clay soil, your hands blistered anew. Then come the drills, the runs, the inspections, and always the watch. 4 hours a night, standing still, staring into darkness. You see shapes that aren't there. You hear whispers in the wind. You clench your rifle tighter and remind yourself to breathe. On your third night in the new post, something does happen. A noise, not loud. A soft click, like Rock. You turn, your heart skips. There's movement, 2 figures slipping through the trees near the outer wall. You raise your weapon, call out the alert. Alarms blare, lights flash, chaos erupts. Legionnaires pour from their bunks. The figures vanish. Maybe scouts, maybe thieves, maybe worse, no one is sure. But the base is on lockdown for the next 2 days. Everyone is on edge, even the veterans. You stand longer watch shifts, double your patrols. You don't sleep. Not really. Just close your eyes and wait for the next task, the next day, the next moment. You've reached the point where surviving isn't even a question. It's just your nature now. You endure. That's what the Legion does. You're sitting by the fire again. Not because it's cold though it is, but because staring into flames gives your mind something to do. The flicker, the crackle, the slow swirl of smoke into the night sky, it's hypnotic. Across from you, 2 men are playing cards. Neither speaks. The only sound is the shuffle, the flick, the occasional grunt. A third man, a wiry Tunisian with a scar across his scalp, sharpens a knife with quiet intensity. His name might be Kareem, or maybe that's just what someone called him once. Names don't matter much out here. You're not men anymore. You're numbers. Tools. Instruments of a mission you don't fully understand. That night, a courier arrives with a message. A detachment is being formed for a scouting mission into the mountains. You're on the list. No questions. You prepare without complaint, clean your rifle, check your boots, pack 2 days' rations, fill your canteen. The next morning, you're off. 8 men, no vehicles, just your feet, your guns, and the whispering wind. The mountain path is steep and narrow. One wrong step could send you tumbling into the ravine below. You climb for hours, sweat freezing against your spine, thighs burning, lungs scraping with every breath of thin air. The silence here is deeper than in the desert. It presses against your ears, your thoughts, like a weight. You don't speak. No one does. There's no room for noise. Every rock might hide an ambush. Every turn might end in gunfire. The corporal signals for a halt. You kneel, breathing quietly, listening. The wind sighs through the pines. Birds chirp once, then stop. Something moves. The corporal gestures. 2 men break off, circling around. You wait. Minutes crawl by. Then nothing. False alarm. A goat, maybe. You resume your march. By nightfall, you reach a ridge with a half-collapsed stone hut. Shelter, sort of. You take turns sleeping in shifts. Your watch is 2 a.m. to 4. The stars above are like shards of broken glass scattered across a velvet cloth. It would be beautiful if you weren't so cold you can't feel your fingers. Still, you stay awake. You always stay awake. Sleep is for men with the luxury of safety. And you left safety behind the day you signed up. The next morning, snow begins to fall. Not heavily, but enough to slick the rocks and make the climb more treacherous. You slip once, catch yourself. Behind you, someone falls. Just a scrape, no blood. You keep going. Eventually, you reach the vantage point. You survey the valley below through binoculars. There's Movementa's small cluster of figures, smoke from cooking fires, a few canvas tents. The corporal scribbles notes. Photos are taken. Coordinates logged. It's not your job to ask questions. Just observe. Just survive. The trek back is even harder. The path is narrower now, the ice thicker. One wrong step and a man in your unit slides. He doesn't fall far, but he lands hard, wrenches his leg. The decision is immediate. Carry him or leave him. You carry him. 2 men take turns supporting him, while the others cover the flanks. It slows you down, makes you more vulnerable. But the Legion leaves no one behind. Not today. When you get back to base, the medic patches him up. You crash onto your bunk, too tired to eat, too wired to sleep. You stare at the ceiling, the cracked paint, the flickering light bulb. You think about nothing. Thinking hurts. Days later, a new assignment. Road repair this time. Laying gravel on a dusty track for supply trucks, you swing a pickaxe, shoulders screaming, eyes stinging from dust. The corporal makes a joke. You don't laugh, but you appreciate the attempt. He's not a bad man, just broken in the same place as you are. That night, someone pulls out a harmonica. It's out of tune, off-key, but the notes echo through the camp like a ghost's lullaby. A few heads nod, a few mouths even smile. It's strange how even here, in the middle of nowhere, under a sky filled with cold stars and behind barbed wire fences, humanity still flickers in small, quiet moments. You lie on your bunk later, hands behind your head, listening to the night sounds. No gunfire, no alarms, just wind. For now, you know it won't last. It never does. But for one night, you're not afraid. You're just tired. And somehow, that's enough to sleep. Another month disappears without ceremony. You mark its passing not with a calendar, but with the weight of grime on your uniform and the number of new scars on your hands. There's a new commander in Camp Young, fresh-faced and overly enthusiastic. The men roll their eyes when he speaks too fast, gives too many orders, tries to connect. He'll learn or he'll leave. Either way, no one cares. The Legion does not mold itself to fit men. Men bend to fit the Legion. You're assigned to outpost duty again 3 days, manning a solitary watchtower several clicks from the main base. Just you, another Legionnaire, and the endless horizon. You ride out in the back of a creaking truck, bouncing over rough terrain, your teeth rattling with every pothole. When you arrive, the tower looms like a skeletal monument. The walls are cracked, the roof patched with tarps, and inside, the air smells of old oil and dust. There's no electricity, no plumbing, no comfort. You unpack your gear, check your field radio, and begin your shift. The hours crawl. You spend them scanning the distance, watching for dust trails, shapes, shadows. Most of the time, there's nothing, just the wind and your own heartbeat. You take turns sleeping 4 hours at a time on a lumpy cot with a stained blanket. You dream of nothing, not even nightmares, just black. On the second night, something moves in the dark. You spot it through your scope. A figure on the ridge, still as stone. You call it in, keep your weapon trained. Minutes pass. Then the figure turns and disappears. No contact, no incident. But you don't sleep that night. You stay awake, pulse ticking in your throat like a drum. You think of the deserter from weeks ago. You wonder if he's still out there, or if that was him watching. On day 3, your partner gets sick. Heat stroke or maybe bad rations. You're not sure. He vomits into the sand and can barely stand. You radio for extraction, but it's delayed. Hours pass. You keep watch while tending to him. Drape wet cloths over his forehead. Give him your last mouthful of water. When the truck finally arrives, you help him climb aboard. He doesn't speak, just nods. That nod means more than words. Back at camp, life continues like clockwork. You fall into place. Another patrol, another dig, another scalding bowl of something gray served with a side of dry bread. You eat it like it's steak. You're just that hungry. Later, the new commander pulls you aside, says he's noticed your endurance, your discipline, offers you a recommendation for advanced training. Promotions aren't common here, but they do happen. You thank him, but inside, you feel nothing. A higher rank means better boots, maybe less digging. But it also means more responsibility, more risk. You agree anyway, because saying no isn't really an option. Training begins the next morning. You run farther, lift more, drill harder. There's a new instructor, a wiry man with cold eyes and a scar running down his jaw. His voice is quiet, but his orders are iron. He doesn't yell, he just watches. And you work harder to avoid disappointing him. You fire live rounds at distant targets until your fingers blister from recoil. You learn hand signals, silent movement, how to read the terrain like a map. You crawl through mud, through brambles, through wire. You learn how to survive on nothing. You become more than a soldier. You become an instrument. The final test is a solo navigation mission. 3 days, no map, just coordinates, a compass, and your instincts. You're dropped deep in the hills and told to find your way to a checkpoint. The heat is suffocating. The silence, maddening. You ration your water, eat stale protein bars, walk by the stars. You sleep in cracks between rocks hidden under shrubs. You whisper to yourself to stay alert. When you reach the checkpoint, the instructor is already there.
He nods once, says nothing. That's the pass.
Back at base, you get a new badge, a new rank, no ceremony. Just a nod from the commander and a slightly cleaner bunk. You don't celebrate. You clean your weapon, then your boots. You sleep with one hand on your canteen and the other near your rifle. You've come a long way from the fresh-faced recruit who barely knew how to shoulder his pack. Now, you're Legion. Fully, irrevocably. Whatever you were before doesn't matter. Whatever comes next doesn't scare you. Not because you're brave, but because there's nothing left to fear. Weeks melt into months like wax under the desert sun. By now, you don't flinch when the trucks roll out. You don't brace when the captain calls your name. You don't even blink when you're handed orders stamped confidential and told to pack for 5 days without asking why. You've accepted that questions don't belong here. Curiosity is a luxury. In the Legion, you execute, you follow, you endure. This mission starts like the others. Early morning, tight-lipped briefings, and the usual scramble to assemble gear. The truck ride is long and silent. You ride beside men you trust with your life, but you've never spoken more than a dozen words to them. Bonds form in the silence, through the shared glances, the communal grunt as the truck hits a deep rut, the way someone passes you a canteen without a word. You arrive at a broken compound surrounded by crumbling walls and dry brush. It's marked on no map, a leftover relic from a forgotten outpost, now being reclaimed for strategic overwatch. Your job is simple on paper. Fortify, observe, report. But simplicity never means ease. You start by clearing debris, lifting rusted sheets of metal, dragging splintered planks, brushing away snake nests. The sun is merciless, beating down on your neck like a hammer. Flies buzz in clouds. Every movement feels like dragging your limbs through syrup. That night, you sleep under open sky, your bedroll spread across cracked stone. The stars overhead are so vivid they look fake, like someone punched holes in a black canvas and backlit it. You lie still, feeling your heartbeat slow, listening to the wind whistle through old beams and the low, rhythmic breathing of your squad mates. The peace doesn't last. On the second day, during recon, your team finds a strange set of tracks, fresh, deliberate, not animal. The corporal signals a halt. You fan out, searching the perimeter. There's nothing, but something's wrong. The air feels charged, like the static before a storm. You return to the compound more alert than before. Every man sleeps with his rifle across his chest. That night, the silence is shattered. A shot just rings out in the dark, then another. You scramble from your bedroll, heart pounding. Commands are shouted. You take cover behind a pile of sandbags, rifle up, eyes scanning. But no one comes. The shots stop as quickly as they started. An hour passes. 2. Nothing. In the morning, a single slug is found embedded in a nearby wall. No attacker, no footprints. Just the bullet and the question. You reinforce the walls with an urgency born from instinct. The next day is tense. Every creak, every gust of wind feels like a threat. But the day passes quietly, too quietly. That night, you're on watch. The fire is low, your breath fogs in the cold. You hear something faint crunching, like footsteps on dry earth. You grip your rifle tighter, but again, nothing. You feel your sanity stretch thin. Is it paranoia, fatigue, or something real? You never find out. At dawn, the captain radios in. Extraction rescheduled. Supply truck delayed. You're stuck here for 3 more days. The squad groans, but no one argues. Orders are orders. On the 4th day, you wake to the smell of something burning. You bolt upright. Smoke curls from a nearby storage shed. You rush over. It's not fire, it's a flare, accidentally triggered, leaking acrid fumes. No damage, just another scare. Still, nerves fray. By day 5, your squad is ragged, eyes bloodshot, hands trembling. Even the veterans speak less. You're all waiting for something to happen, and yet nothing does. When the truck finally arrives, it's like seeing salvation on wheels. You pile in, gripping your rifle as if it's the only thing keeping you tethered to reality. Back at base, the others greet you with casual nods. No celebration, no questions. Just silent acknowledgement. You made it back. That's enough. You clean your gear. You eat your stew. You sleep. And when you wake up the next day, it starts again. Orders, marching, drills. The cycle spins on. You're not thinking about the mission, or the gunfire, or the smoke. You're already preparing for the next thing, whatever it is. Because that's the only way to survive the French Foreign Legion. You don't get a ceremony when you hit 1 year in the Legion. No cake, no congratulations. You just wake up, tie your boots, and do it all again. But you remember, somewhere in your bones, your body knows it's been 12 months since you first stepped off that truck. Eyes wide, uniform crisp, heart pounding. And now look at you. Your boots are scuffed beyond repair. Your uniform is more patched than cloth. And your heart? It still beats, but slower now. Steadier. Hardened by the rhythm of Legion life. You've become someone new. Or maybe you've just shed the pieces of who you used to be. You no longer think of home. Not the way you did before. You can't. That world feels like it belongs to someone else entirely. Your world now is one of orders, patrols, and sand. Lots of sand. It gets into everything: your boots, your rifle, your food, your soul. One morning, the base commander announces a new deployment. This one isn't a mission or a training op. It's a relocation. Entire unit. New post, new terrain. The Legion does this, often keeps you moving, keeps you guessing. You pack up. Again. Load into trucks. Again. The convoy snakes through harsh country for 2 days straight. Dust kicking up into your face as the heat cooks you inside your gear. You arrive at a fortified camp on the edge of a plateau, surrounded by cliffs and scrubland. It's colder here. The night's biting. The wind's fierce. But at least the water doesn't taste like rust. Your new task? Border security? Long patrols along a disputed line, monitoring for smugglers, rebels, and anything else that might cross paths with a Legion boot. You spend days walking endless trails, eyes constantly scanning the horizon. You learn to read the land like a book, the way the shrubs lean when the wind shifts, the signs of recent footprints, the way birds fall silent before something stirs. The patrols are long and lonely, sometimes 12 hours, with no words spoken. Just you, your thoughts, and the crunch of gravel underfoot. On one such patrol, you find a makeshift shelter wooden beams and plastic sheets tucked between two boulders. Inside, remnants of a campfire, an empty tin of beans, a tattered blanket. Someone was here recently? The corporal marks the coordinates. You move on. The next day, the tracks return. Fresh ones, leading away from the camp. You follow, carefully, quietly. But they vanish into rocky terrain. Just like that, gone. That night, around the fire, someone brings it up. Could have been a scout. Or a deserter. No one speaks for a moment. You all know what happens to deserters. No judgment, just facts. Another ghost in the desert. The routine hardens you even more. Wake, patrol, train, eat, clean, sleep, wake again. You don't count the days anymore. You count your socks, your rations, your ammunition, the number of hours since your last rest. You lose track of your own face. The mirror in the outpost latrine is cracked, the reflection barely clear. You stare into it sometimes, trying to see the man you were. He doesn't show up. In his place, a soldier with sun-scarred skin, stubble like wire, and eyes that never stop scanning. Then, a letter arrives. From someone back in that old life. You stare at the envelope for a full hour before opening it. The handwriting is soft, careful. Inside, they ask how you are. Tell you about the seasons changing. A wedding. A new baby in the family. You read it twice. Then tuck it under your mattress. You don't write back. Not because you don't care. Because you don't know how to explain this life. There are no words to describe what it feels like to march through a dust storm with cracked lips and a rifle heavier than your own thoughts. No way to translate the sound of silence when you're on night watch, and the wind suddenly dies. No one back home would understand what it's like to hold your breath every time the radio crackles with new orders. So you say nothing. You just keep moving, one day at a time. Because here, that's all you have. Movement, obedience, survival. You don't think about the end, about what comes after. Maybe there is no after. Maybe the Legion is the whole story now. The last chapter already written, but you don't dwell. You stand up, sling your rifle, and step back out into the wind. Another patrol, another horizon, another day in the Legion.